Hello, today we're going to talk about wisdom. Wisdom is something that has been with us from the beginning of time. One of the earliest references to an act of wisdom that we know of is the story in the Bible of King Solomon when he had to rule between two women who were fighting for a baby, and he had to decide which of the two was the rightful mother of that child. Um, And ever since that, it has been so legendary that, everywhere wisdom, or King Solomon himself is known as one of the wisest kings that the world has ever had. But, just a but, wisdom did not end up with Solomon or with the people in history that we regard as the wisest. There's still a lot of wisdom that goes about even today, even though we may not even maybe call it wisdom. I think in modern terms, the concept of wisdom is known as systems thinking. Systems thinking is just a view of every aspect of life as not just a standalone thing, but as a component of a greater system and connected to the different parts of the system. So in other words, there's nothing that is just standing there by itself, but everything is connected to other things, and the effect that happens to one thing, anything that happens to one thing affects the different things. The same way that whatever happens to the other things it is connected to affects this one thing. So wisdom is just to understand that everything is connected, and to know that if we want to influence broader aspects of our lives, we may need to just influence a few aspects that are immediately around us for us to be able to influence those bigger aspects of life. So, why it is important for us to be wise? Why is it important for us to think in systems thinking, to think in terms of the connectivity of things? That is because, or the answer is, the reason is because human life, the purpose for human life is the pursuit of happiness. Everything that we do, whether we drink tea, play soccer, jog, hang around with friends, gaze at the stars, run away from danger, all of that is a pursuit of happiness. There is a happiness, a kind of happiness we expect to derive from anything, everything that we do. So, in our pursuit of happiness, think of a situation where, for instance, you have 10 things that you need to do in order to be happy, let's say in one day. So you spend 1 hour doing this, another hour doing that, and then after 10 hours, you've done 10 things, each one of them for 1 hour. And then maybe after that, you don't have any more time because it's the end of your day and you'll start again tomorrow. Okay? That is when we think that things in our lives are isolated. So in other words, we have to make time and effort for each one of them in order to derive the happiness that comes from it. But now think about a situation where the same 10 things were connected to, let's say from 1 to 10, item number 9 and number 10 were connected to all the other items before them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Now imagine a situation where before you do anything at the beginning of your day, you just look at all the 10 things you need to do, and then you realize that the other 8 of them were depending on only 2. So in other words, all you need to do is just to go and fix the 2, and then the other 8 will fall into place. Now, you go in, you do those 2 things, and then the other 8 fall into place, and you saved time, and you've maximized your happiness, because now by only doing two things, you get happiness that comes from 8 other areas. So the ability to see the connectivity in life helps us in that way, that we are able to affect the different areas of our lives by seeing how they are connected to the things we are doing now, and then acting in the situation where we are in such a way that we improve also those things. Or maybe messing up the situation where we are and messing up the rest of them. What we need to know is just how any change that we do to the current situation where we are affects the broader aspects of our lives. Let's take another example, such as a job. Okay, we all know someone who complains about their job. They say all these things that are not going well in their job, how miserable they are in it, how they tend to drag themselves to their office and things like that. To a point where you may even expect that person after that conversation to just tender in their resignation. And yet, the following day, the same person goes back to work. And now the question becomes, does it mean all the things that we're talking about yesterday have been resolved? The answer is no. Essentially, what happens is that, you see, it doesn't matter what people say to us when they vent out their anger, frustrations, and all those things. But at the end of the day, every person knows their situation much better than any other person. Every person makes those internal evaluations of what is important to them, and based on what they value more, then they do and act accordingly. So someone who complains about their job but goes to work the following day, what happens through their mind is that even though they may have problems at work relating to maybe their colleagues or their boss or this or that, okay, the kind of reasons which would compel them to resign. And yet they don't resign. The reason is because they look at the problems as, okay, the problems that happen at work. But then on the other side, they look at the other aspects of their lives that are depending on this job. And so they find that they have a good lifestyle that they enjoy. They find that if they have children, the ability to afford their school fees and to take them to school and make them happy in this or that way also depends on them having that job. And then they look at the occasional holidays that they go on, the things they're able to buy for themselves or the house that they bought. All of that depends on this job. Now, at the end of the day, what we do in our minds, even though we may not often be aware of it, is that we do something that's more like in business terms, a cost-benefit analysis. When the benefits are more than the cost, we tend to go with the benefits. When the costs are more than the benefits, that's where we are likely to, side with the cost. So whenever we look at a situation like a strenuous job, but at the same time find there are more benefits that come from that you derive from that, that is where we side with our job. We don't leave our job because we derive so much benefit. It helps us in the other areas of our lives. And with that, we drag ourselves back to work, to the job that we were complaining about, because even with all those complaints, there are still more benefits coming from our job. I think for today, I will leave it at that, and thank you very much. Until next time.